My name is Anne. I've only had one significant encounter with what I would call a spirit. It was back in the summer of 1994. My boyfriend, now my husband, and I were visiting his parents at their home in San Jose, Costa Rica. It was my first visit there, and I was very excited about our trip. We arrived on a wet and rainy afternoon in the middle of June, rainy season in Costa Rica. After chatting for a bit with my boyfriend's mother, both of us returned for a nap to our respective bedrooms. The room that I was given was towards the back of a very large house. Luckily for me, it connected my boyfriend's bedroom with a bathroom in between. Anyway, after a very good but short nap, I awoke to a figure standing over me. I never saw his face, and I say his because he was, unmistakably, a male presence. I blinked a few times, disoriented, and then ran to my boyfriend's room. I told him that I was never going to sleep in that room, especially by myself. Upon retelling the story to his mother and other family members, I was intrigued to learn that the house has been haunted for years. Since my husband's childhood, in fact, young children and other guests have reported weird visions, spirits, etc. Although this spirit seemed rather benign, there had been another entity in the house that was anything but friendly. My sister-in-law says that as a young girl, she was afraid of going up and down the stairs because a man or woman in a black cloak would chase after her with a long knife. When my in-laws finally acknowledged the presence of the spirit and had a priest come to exorcise the spirit, he found something strange. Behind a painting that my mother-in-law had, he found another painting of a witch slicing the neck of a goose. The painting had been recently purchased on a trip to Spain or France, although I've never been sure why she bought this painting or stuck it behind this other painting. The priest said that the painting was associated with many hauntings. Do you know of this painting? And can these kind of hauntings occur through artwork? Also, I've not sensed nor seen the other spirit in the house. We now live fairly close to my in-laws, and my two girls play at their house often. They also have not said anything to me. Should I worry about these spirits, or have they moved on? Thanks for reading this. Any insight that you could give me would be greatly appreciated. I've never personally had a paranormal experience, but my older brother has, and this is his story. First, you have to know that my brother is a very practical person, an engineer in the army to be exact. No one in my family really believes in ghosts, but I believe this story because he called me the next morning freaked out and said, "You're never going to believe me and think I'm crazy." But he lived in Texas, is in Iraq now, and his apartment complex was located on the same road as an old cemetery. This is exactly how he told me what happened. One night, he was laying in bed on his back, having trouble sleeping. He said the covers on his bed started getting tight as if they were being pulled down from both sides. The covers got so tight that he could barely breathe. He was wondering what was going on, but couldn't move. Then he got really hot, and then really cold. All of a sudden, he says he felt tingling, and then his mouth flew open, and a long rush of air was being forced out of his mouth. He said it didn't even feel like it was his own breath. He felt like it was coming from someone else. After that, the temperature returned to normal, and the covers loosened. Then he heard footsteps going towards the door of his bedroom, and then he heard the sound of a little child giggling. After that, he said he laid awake for hours, just scared, and trying to make sense of what had happened to him. To me, this sounds almost unbelievable. In fact, I'd never believe it if it wasn't my own brother, who would not make something like this up. He was really afraid when he told me, and I just have to believe that it happened. Now that I've read all the other stories on this website, I can definitely tell him he isn't crazy. Probably just had a ghostly encounter. I've had many ghost experiences through the 14 years I've been on this earth. Well, my first happened at the second house I lived at. My younger sister and I used to share a room. She's always rocked and made noise. Well, one night I was asleep, and she started crying and rocking in her crib. I couldn't stand the noise, and needed my sleep for school the next day. So I grabbed my blanket and pillow, went into our living room, and crashed out on the couch. I awoke to a strange presence. Something that was watching me. I opened my eyes, and across from me, on a brown chair, was a hazy yet solid figure. I can only describe him as well dressed. A gray suit, a tie, buzz cuts, and a mustache. He sort of looked like my great-grandfather, who had passed away. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, so I shut my eyes and opened them again. He was still there. He just sat there, staring back at me. After a while, I started to fall asleep again. I didn't have any nightmares, but I woke up to the door of our garage being opened. I looked around, and the figure was gone. I later discussed it with my parents. They said that weird stuff happened in the house to them too. They told me that they woke up to our back door being shut. They said that they thought it was me letting out the dog, but I was sound asleep in my bed. Out of all my experiences, this is one I can't forget. I found out later on about the history of the house. The old man who lived there before us died of a heart attack. He was kind to all the kids of the neighborhood. His wife had already passed on, and he was just waiting for his time to go. My dad was in the army in the 60s and 70s. After he was out of Vietnam, he was assigned to Okinawa in Japan to guard a chemical weapons storage there. Each night, him and 4 others would patrol the area. My dad and 2 others had guard dogs with them. One night, one of the other ones that was patrolling called for backup that he had spotted someone on top of one of the chemical weapons mounds. They were buried underground. The 3 with the dogs led the way, and as they approached the mound, the dogs would not go one more step. These were German shepherds who were mean and were never scared, and none of them would go past a certain point. They decided to tie them up and go ahead without them. The plan was, the guy with the shotgun will go back up the mound and flush the guy down the front towards the other 3. As the guy headed up the back, this thing that they said was misty and dark colored came running down the side. All of them started chasing after it. These are 19 to 20-year-old guys, and the thing they said was moving in slow motion and was pulling away from them. One of the guys yells at it to stop and pulls out his pistol and puts 5 shots right in the thing's back from point-blank range. It did not even faze it. They were headed towards a 10-foot fence with barbed wire on the top. The thing just glided up and over the top of it, like it was not even difficult. On the other side there was a big muddy area, and by the time the patrol got around to it, the thing was gone, and there was no footprints. Okinawa was the site of a major battle in World War II, and this is one of only many experiences that he had while there. When we first moved into my house on Navajo in San Francisco, everything seemed normal. We all felt safe, and nothing seemed off or weird. In 2000, we started to encounter odd sightings and sounds at the house. My mom was doing laundry in the garage. Usually she only has one light on, but this time, she turned both of the garage lights on. As she was getting the clothes from the dryer, she saw a young teenage boy standing near a parked car we had inside. He slowly moved towards the garage door and disappeared. Later on, a few weeks passed. We didn't make much of it. One night, my sister was sleeping alone in her room. It was just me and her at home. I had been watching TV with the mute on, waiting for my parents to come home. I then saw the doorknob slowly move. I had the door locked, and I could look under, and no one was there. The following day, I woke up with bruises on my arm. After that, my sister felt and saw someone all in black, sitting at the edge of her bed. My brother had seen the same young boy my mom saw downstairs in the guest room we have. After my sister got married, she and her husband stayed with us. Every night, she recalled being awakened by someone. She would feel like someone was lying next to her on the opposite side of where her husband was and touching her. It got so bad that we had to call a spirit channel person. She took the ghost away, but it wasn't over. Every night in my room, I see objects change from place or things on the floor when I haven't touched anything. I've heard repeated voices calling my name, knocks on my door, someone walking in the kitchen, turning on the faucet. The last sighting I saw was at night. It was 10 p.m. No one was home but me. I was doing exercise, and I turned around, and I saw a woman standing at the doorway for my kitchen. As I winked and blinked, I saw the faucet running, and I felt a cold chill, when it was really hot weather that day too. Whatever it was, it just won't leave till it gets its message across. Me and several friends and family members have come to believe that my house is haunted. These are a few of the incidents that have occurred in my home just over the past few months. My house is very cold and old. Dates back to the 1800s. After a short time, we started to notice strange things happening in sounds, footsteps, whispering, thumps and slamming doors. Let me first say that these things are unnerving for other reasons than the obvious, that it is a ghost, but it is also frightening, because you can never be sure if it is only a ghost, or that someone is actually breaking into your home, which is something I fear more than the dead. The dead aren't going to steal your TV, or kidnap your children. Ghosts I can live with. I just hate it when they are so dang nosy. Okay, story time. My husband works third shift, so I am often alone at night in the house. When I can, I opt for company. Usually a family member will stay with me. One night, my husband was leaving for work, and with our children away, remember that part, I asked my cousin, Nicole, to stay with me. Eric, my hubby, was doing his usual routine of running about, getting ready and saying his goodbyes. As he was leaving, he kissed me and said, "Bye, baby. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow morning," which I said right back to him. He said later Nicole, and she waved goodbye to him also. This was the normal run of things, except for the absence of our daughters, who are usually the last to say goodbye to their daddy. Eric exited the back door. A few seconds later, Nicole and I heard the voice of a child emanating from upstairs, saying, "Bye, Daddy." It was as clear as a bell, and as real as me or you. I looked over at Nicole, who was just staring ahead with a frozen look of fear on her face. I of course said, "Did you hear that?" even though I knew she just did by the look on her face. She said, "Yeah, I did, but I don't want to talk about it until the morning." I think we were both a little freaked out for the rest of the night. We had known that the house was haunted, but we did not expect an actual interaction with them. My second experience happened just a few weeks ago. I told you my husband, Eric, works the late shift, so he basically sleeps during the day while our daughters are in school. On that particular day, I had a few errands to run, so my sister Maggie decided she would tag along, and we would go have lunch together. We were away from the house for about 3 hours, and when we arrived home, we entered the back door that leads to my kitchen, so we would not disturb my husband who was fast asleep on the couch in our living room. As it happens, our kitchen is separated from the rest of my house by a big wooden swinging door that leads to our dining room. Now please note that when we shut the back door in the kitchen, the air from it will cause a suction and make the swinging door swing back and forth on its hinges. I'm used to seeing this happen so many times. As I said, we entered the back door, Maggie going in first and sitting some groceries down on the kitchen table. I came in last, sat down my things, and proceeded in shutting the door behind me. I automatically look up, as did Maggie, See the swinging door moving on its hinges. No biggie. I knew what caused it. But as the door swung outward, I saw a man standing about 6 inches away from the door frame. He then grabbed the door and held for about 3 seconds and just stood there, looking back at me. I gasped and he let the door go. I told Maggie to get out of the house, that I saw a man in the dining room and without a phone in that room. There is no phone jack there due to the fact that my dog decided to eat it. I did the dumbest thing I could. I grabbed the nearest object, which was the frying pan. I then did what came natural, and holding the frying pan out in front of me, I pushed through the swinging door using every stealthy move I had ever seen on all those cop shows. I know it sounds funny now, but I was so scared that all I could think that there was someone in my house, and my hubby was asleep on that couch. I pressed my back to the swinging door, so if anyone was standing behind, they would be flattened to the wall, in which case if they were, I guess I could have smacked them one with a frying pan, but who knows. I was running on pure adrenaline. I then ran to the living room, looking all directions at once, and woke my husband. We searched every room and found nothing. I told Eric exactly what the man looked like. I seen him plain as day. There was no trace of any forced entry of any kind. I've never been so terrified in all my life. It was like the man had vanished. I'm still not sure what to think of it. I've moved back to my hometown in Michigan after being away for many years. I've many stories to share, but this is a recent one that stands out. A fixture in my town was a burly guy named Bronco. Bronco was the typical bar bouncer type. Not surprisingly, this was his usual job. When I was younger, he used to drive his blue Ford Bronco. My family knew him well, as my mom ran the after-bar breakfast restaurant where all the party people congregated when the bars closed. Since I had moved away years before, I lost touch with the old party crowd. I did hear, however, that Bronco sold his beloved truck a few years after I moved. Anyway, it was June of 2002, I think, and I was driving on I-94. I saw Bronco's old blue truck driving on the opposite lane and mentioned it to the person who was in the car with me. I hadn't seen Bronco in a few years, but knew I would run into him at our upcoming Ventenian festival, and would mention the sighting to him then. A few nights before the Ventenian festival, a friend and I went to a local bar to hear the band rehearse. As I walked into the place, I spied Bronco on the far side of the bar. I raised an eyebrow at him, and he acknowledged me in his cocky way from across the room. My friend and I went to look for a space to sit. Once we found a table, I told my friend that I saw Bronco and wanted to go say hi and tell him that I spotted his old truck the weeks before. As I made my way through the crowd to the bar, I heard the band dedicating a song. They were dedicating it to Bronco and said he had passed away. I was sure it was a joke. I finally made it to the bar where he was sitting. No one was there. I was absolutely perplexed. I walked around, trying to see where he went, to no avail. Finally, I questioned a ton of mutual friends, and they confirmed that he died of a heart attack or something the previous April. I was in total shock. He was only in his early 40s when he passed away, and one of those muscle-bound types. Even now, when I look back on this incident, I'm so amazed, because I saw him clear as day. Anyway, I thought it was pretty nice of him to remember me after he passed like that. I guess he knew I would appreciate the drama and the irony. About 3 years ago, I was at my grandpa's house, getting ready in the bathroom for school. I saw a woman walk down the hall towards the living room. I just thought it was my grandma, so I just brushed it off. Then a few moments later, I was looking out the door into the hallway, and I saw her again. I didn't recognize her. I ran into the living room screaming at the top of my lungs, "There's someone in the house! Hurry!" My grandpa took off into the house, searching for an intruder. He looked in every room, under the beds, and in the closets. He even looked in cabinets big enough for someone to hide. There was no one there. Later that day, he said an old boarding house used to be on the same spot as the house was built a long time ago. He said that I more than likely saw the woman who owned it. He took out his picture box and showed me an old book that he had the town's history in it. He turned to the page where I had information on the boarding house. As soon as I saw the picture of the owner, I was speechless. It took me a while, but after I caught my breath, I told my grandpa, "Oh my God, that's her." Hello, mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. We come united to gather today to feast on this phantom feast of epic proportions, of video entertainments, and other I don't know what I'm talking about, guys. Thank you guys so much for being so patient with me. I gotta hand it to you guys. You guys are the most patient fans I've ever had. Well, you're the only fans I've ever had, but you guys know what I mean. Seriously, guys, I know the algorithm killed me, but after I returned from Seattle, my day was just completely in ruins. I was very jet lagged and I was very tired, and I got sick, and then my cat got sick, and we all got sick, and we all had to help each other out. So, guys, please remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Oh, I'm so happy I got this video out for you guys, just so you guys can be happy that there's a video up. So hopefully everybody knows about it. You know, the best way you can follow what I'm doing and have any updates or anything is obviously the community posts, but Twitter and, you know, Instagram, I'm always on there, so please do not hesitate to follow me on there if you have any of those social media accounts. You'll definitely keep updated on the situation, and I'll let you know, and you guys are never out of the loop, so do that if you can, please. Anyway, guys, seriously, I'm gonna head out and just enjoy the rest of this video by myself. I mean, with you guys, obviously, but see you in the comment section, of course, and I'm gonna stop slurring my words because I sound like a maniac as usual. But guys, good night, good morning, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully very soon, and not almost 2 weeks later, sorry.